Okay, so we're diving into some really interesting texts today. We've
Yep.
got this story from Acts, a psalm, and then some deep stuff from John's gospel.
Right. Quite a combination. The Acts passage starts with the apostles being arrested.
Yeah, and the reason given is, well, jealousy from the high priest and the Sadducees.
Which is interesting, isn't it? It's framed less as a theological argument initially and more about influence, popularity.
Their growing influence, yeah, like a threat to the established power.
Exactly. That dynamic, you see it all the time. And putting them in the public jail, it makes it very official, very public opposition.
But then things take a really sharp turn. They're locked up, but an angel shows up.
An angel of the Lord, yeah. Middle of the night, prison doors open.
Just like that. And the instruction isn't run and hide, it's go back to the temple.
Go back and preach about this new life.
Yeah.
Right back into the heart of the opposition.
It's incredibly bold, defying the very people who just arrested them.
It really says something about their conviction, doesn't it? And that phrase, new life. It hints at something transformative, something that's maybe fundamentally different.
A real alternative. You can see why it might feel threatening.
And they don't waste any time.
Nope. Back in the temple, preaching at dawn, just as instructed.
Which naturally triggers a reaction.
Sanhedrin gets involved. The text calls it the full Senate of Israel, so the big guns.
Yeah, the highest council, the high priest convenes everyone. This isn't minor. They clearly see it as a huge challenge.
So they send officials to the prison to bring the apostles back, assuming, of course, that they're still there.
Right. Their assumption would be, okay, we lock them up, they're locked up. Standard procedure.
But what the officials find is, well, not what they expect.
Not at all. They get there, the prison's secure, doors locked, guards on duty.
Everything looks fine from the outside.
But inside,
Empty.
completely empty. The report back must have been pretty confusing. We found the jail locked up tight, opened it, nobody inside. It really emphasizes the, let's say, inexplicable nature of it from their point of view. It's beyond just human action.
Yeah, it introduces something they can't control or explain. Locked doors, guards, yet gone.
You can almost feel the reaction, the captain of the temple, the chief priests, just wonder, uncertainty, what is going on?
And right when they're grappling with this impossible situation,
Someone shows up with news.
news that the men they thought were locked up are actually back in the temple courts
Preaching,
Yeah.
openly, again.
is such direct defiance. And it puts the authorities in a tricky spot.
Totally, because the text mentions they're hesitant to use force this time.
Why?
Fear of the people. The crowd seems to be listening, engaged with what the apostles are saying.
So there's this tension between the religious leaders and the ordinary people.
Definitely. So the captain goes to get them, but cautiously, gently almost, trying to avoid a public scene. It shows the authorities are kind of walking on eggshells.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly to the psalm. It's full of praise for Yahweh, even amidst trouble.
It really is. A call for the humble to hear and be glad, for everyone to proclaim God's greatness together.
Given what's happening in Acts, the arrest, the danger this psalm feels like it offers a different kind of response, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It resonates strongly with that theme of seeking God when things are tough. The psalmist talks about seeking Yahweh and being answered, being delivered from fears.
That sounds a bit like the apostle situation, being released unexpectedly.
It does. And notice the instruction, fix your gaze on Yahweh. That suggests finding courage, finding strength, not by looking at the opposition, but somewhere else.
Leading to brightness and no shame, inner peace, maybe.
Perhaps, and freedom from that public shame or humiliation the authorities might want to inflict.
There's also that line about the pauper crying out and Yahweh hearing, saving them from troubles.
Yes. That feels very direct, doesn't it? Considering the apostles' relative powerlessness against the Sanhedrin.
And then the image of the angel of Yahweh camping around those who fear him, rescuing them.
That's a striking parallel to the angel opening the prison doors in Acts. It provides a kind of theological framework for understanding that event divine protection for the faithful.
So the psalm isn't just abstract praise. It's grounded in an experience of rescue and reliance.
Precisely. The invitation to taste and see that Yahweh is good is very personal, very experiential. It's about finding refuge, finding security in God.
And the promise that those who fear him lack nothing, it suggests a different kind of provision, beyond just the material, maybe.
I think so. Sustenance, courage, purpose, even when facing powerful opposition.
Okay, now let's bring in the passage from John's Gospel. It talks about God's love for the world,
Right, the famous part about God giving his only son.
so that whoever believes in him shouldn't perish, but have eternal life.
Mm-hmm. And crucially, that the son wasn't sent to judge or condemn the world, but to save it.
This feels like it gets closer to the heart of that new life the angel mentioned back in Acts.
It really does. John lays down the sort of the core theological basis for it. God's initiative, love, salvation offered through Jesus.
But then John draws this really stark contrast.
Between belief and unbelief, yes. Believers aren't condemned, unbelievers. Well, the text says they stand condemned already.
Because they haven't believed. But why? What's the reason given for that condemnation?
John connects it to light and darkness. He says the judgment is this. Light came into the world, but people preferred darkness.
Why darkness?
Because their deeds were evil. It links the rejection of light, the rejection of Jesus in John's context, to moral behavior, to motivation.
That resonates back with Acts, doesn't it? The jealousy of the high priest, the desire to maintain control. Could that be seen as a kind of preference for darkness, protecting their own position?
It certainly could be interpreted that way. John says people who do wrong hate the light. They avoid it. They don't want their actions exposed.
There's a desire for secrecy.
Exactly. Secrecy, avoiding accountability. Whereas conversely,
Those who do the truth.
yeah.
An interesting phrase. They come into the light.
Right. They willingly step into openness. So it can be seen that their actions are, well, done in God, as the text puts it, aligned with God's will, transparent.
So there's this fundamental choice presented. Living in the light, openly, truthfully, or choosing the shadows, hiding actions driven by maybe less noble motives.
It's a powerful metaphor. Light representing truth, exposure, God's presence, and darkness representing concealment, evil, rejection of God.
So pulling it all together,
Yeah.
we see this narrative in acts of human authority clashing with this new movement.
A movement seemingly backed by divine intervention, offering freedom and purpose.
Then the psalm gives us this voice of trust and reliance on God amidst that kind of pressure.
Providing a perspective of faith and finding strength beyond human circumstances.
And John digs deep into the why behind it all, God's love, the offer of salvation, and this critical choice between light and darkness based on our deeds and motivations.
Yeah, it's fascinating how they weave together. The story, the reflection, the theology. Acts shows the tension play out, the psalm gives the heart's response, and John explains the ultimate stakes involved in choosing light or darkness.
It really makes you pause and consider, doesn't it? This dynamic of challenging established norms, the source of courage, and ultimately what motivates our own choices. Are we drawn towards the light, towards openness and truth, or do we find ourselves preferring the shadows for some reason, something to reflect on?